Welcome to the life you crave. Simple and sustainable weight loss for women who have better things to do than diet. I'm your host, Lia Pinelli. I help ambitious, badass women stop overeating, overworking, and overgiving to lose weight from a place of love. I'll help you simplify weight loss, end your overwhelm, and create the life you crave. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe to this podcast. Let's get started. The very first thing I teach every client is how to eat when she's hungry and stop when she's not. This is the same thing I learned when I started my weight loss journey 30 pounds ago. In fact, I lost 7 pounds without even changing what I was eating. I wasn't even trying to lose weight. And my client, Amy, she lost 20 pounds just using this one tool alone. You can learn it too in under 30 minutes in my video training called Eating Without Fear. Head over to liapinelli.com/EWF to start today. That's liapinelli.com/EWF. Hey y'all, welcome to the Life You Crave podcast. Lia Pinelli here, talking all things summer, all things travel, fun in the sun this summertime. And on our last episode number 110, I gave you 4 tips on how to kill your bathing suit anxiety and how to feel good in the skin that you're in the bathing suit that I hope you went and bought, in the body that you're in right here, right now, and still make plans to transform your body if that is something that you would love to do. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the second thing that it takes to really, truly enjoy your summer, feel good in your bathing suit, and really start to transform yourself and your life and your body into that which you would most love, into the life that you would crave, into the body that you would feel most at home in. On today's episode, we are talking about feeling in control. So what do I mean by feeling in control? I think if you're one of my listeners, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, because those of us who overeat, we tend to feel out of control with food in particular. A lot of us can feel out of control when it comes to the quantity of food that we eat, or oftentimes it's not necessarily the quantity, but it's the what, it's the cravings. It's the feeling like food has power over you that you just can't resist. And you know that these foods are not serving you. You know that you crave to feel really good in the skin that you're in, on the beach, on a family vacation. You want to feel good and confident, even in your suit at work, your clothes at work, in the boardroom, right? You want to feel confident and strong, but yet you can't seem to resist the damn chocolate-covered peanut butter cups. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know that used to be my thing. Or you can't resist the popcorn or the wine, right? All of those things that are adding up to extra unwanted weight on your body. And it feels out of control. It feels like the food has power over you as opposed to you having power over it. So this is kind of the second part in a series of how to really feel good in the skin that you're in this summer. Like I said, the last episode was about feeling good in your bathing suit. That was episode 110. Now today I want to talk to you though about really how to feel in control with food. Now, let me be fully transparent. Feeling in control with food is what I teach my clients how to do, and it takes 90 days. So I cannot give to you in one 20-minute podcast what I can give to you in the 90-day program, what I can give to my clients in the 90-day program, but I can give you on this episode today some of the most important aspects of feeling in control. And you can actually get started on these yourself. You don't need to go through the entire 90-day program to get yourself started. And that's what I want to share with you today. So, what does it really mean to feel in control anyway? Well, feeling in control is simply having a feeling of agency, right? You feel like you are in charge. And so, I would love for you to think about a context in your life where you do feel in control and you do feel in charge. Maybe it's at work. Maybe you feel a great sense of confidence in your performance, in your ability to lead your team or lead your staff or execute on the tasks that you have under, under your charge. Maybe you feel in control when it comes to parenting. And if you do, please let me know how that's going because I could use a few tips over here. Maybe you feel in control when it comes to your finances. Maybe you feel in control when it comes to your relationships. But most likely, if you're listening to this, a place that you don't feel in control is your relationship with food. And what I want to share with you is the idea that the fact that you are in control in some areas of your life, and for a lot of my clients, it's most areas of their life. They are very successful at work. They are successful families. They have, happy marriages oftentimes. They have it all, so to speak, except for this one piece, this last piece of the puzzle, as I've had 2 clients in the last month call it, right? This last piece of the puzzle, which is really feeling in control with food and feeling in control with the size of my body. And I don't mean in control in a controlling way. And let me just make that clear. There is a difference between feeling in control and being controlling. We don't want to be controlling. We don't want to be, because being controlling is when you're being controlling over usually someone or something else that actually should have control over themselves. But being in control of yourself is a sense of confidence. And most importantly, it's a sense of trust. Trust is actually what feeling in control is all about. If you trust yourself to not become disempowered by food, if you trust yourself to be around a plate of brownies, to be at the Italian restaurant with the bread basket in front of you, to open a bottle of wine and not have more than 1 glass, if you trust yourself, then you automatically feel a sense of control. And therefore, you don't need to be controlling because you trust. Think about it with your partner. If you trust your partner to make decisions that are in the best interest of your partnership, you don't have to be controlling over that partner, right? Because you trust your partner. If you trust your child to make good choices, you don't have to be controlling because you trust your child will make good choices. It's the same exact thing with your relationship with yourself. It's about trusting yourself. And you must trust yourself in order to feel in control. Now, I know a lot of you are like, Lia, I don't trust myself. And I know this because I always talk about my one client who I love and adore, who has still to this day a food safe in her house for her husband's junk food. I actually don't think they use it anymore, to be honest. I think I know she's come a long way, but she didn't trust herself around the, quote unquote junk food. So many of us will not buy certain things not because we just simply don't want to we don't want to be tempted and we just don't want to eat them regularly. We aren't buying them and putting them in the house because we don't trust ourselves, because we think we can't trust ourselves. Do you guys see the difference? This is huge. And this is not semantics. This is not word choice. This is everything when it comes to truly feeling in control with food. Is you have to learn to trust yourself with food. So how do we do that? I'm going to teach you that today. Let's go. So the first thing that you need to understand when it comes to trust and control with food is that we have 2 brains. Now, I'm being figurative here, but essentially we have a primitive brain and then we have an evolved brain. Some people call this your reptilian brain and your higher brain, lower brain, higher brain. Sometimes I call it your adult brain and your toddler brain, but you get the idea. We have that part of our brain that is responsible for survival, for keeping us alive. That's the reptilian part of our brain. It is designed to activate the amygdala in the event of a threat to our survival. So then we kick into automatic fight or flight mode, right? Or freeze. That part of our brain is so valuable for keeping us alive, but it is terrible at making choices that increase our happiness, health, and longevity in the long run, right? So the problem is when we let that part of our brain make decisions about food, we are not going to feel good about those decisions because that part of our brain is always going to choose the sugariest, sweetest, yummiest, most fattening thing out there, right? And usually that's because those types of foods, I mean, I could go into this forever, and I do teach this in the 90-day program, but those types of foods are actually designed to be more enticing. Can't go into that all right now, but I want to get to the point here, which is way more important, which is that higher brain, the evolved brain, your adult brain, that is your prefrontal cortex. And that is located just behind your forehead. And it's actually not fully formed, not fully developed, I should say, until we are in our mid-20s. So side note, this is why teenagers, including yours truly when I was a teenager, this is why we make such terrible decisions in our adolescent years, because this part of our brain, the prefrontal, is not fully developed until we are in our mid-20s, as I said. And this part of our brain is responsible for all of the executive functioning that we are able to execute on. So for example, that is the ability to plan, our ability to make good judgments, or just judgment in general, critical thinking. All of those faculties are developed in that prefrontal cortex. So why this is important is because when you think about survival, we sure as hell want that reptilian brain to be firing and functioning. But when we're not thinking about survival, when we're thinking about happiness, longevity, vitality, all of those things that are not instantaneous necessarily in the moment, but more like an investment in the bank for feeling good all the way around, down the road and in the present, that part of our lives must be determined by our prefrontal cortex. Why? Because our prefrontal cortex is the part of our brain that allows us to imagine and to see into the future with our imaginations. This is the thing that, as far as we know, no other animal is really capable of doing. Maybe some apes, but as far as we know, humans are the only species that are able to activate that faculty that allows us to imagine into the future. And that's the part of you that can see that version of you that's in control with food, that trusts herself with food, that isn't carrying a bunch of unwanted weight. That's the part of you when you imagine what your life could look like if you could just release this unwanted weight. That is your prefrontal cortex at work. So why do we need to know this? What does this have to do anything to do with being in control? Well, what this has to do with being in control with food is that when you activate that part of your brain, so when you imagine into the future of what your life could be, you are using your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex knows how to hook you up in the future, right? That part of you knows. This is where my clients always say to me, I know what I need to do, right? I'm just not doing it. Yeah, we know, you guys are smart as hell, right? Like you guys are high achieving, ambitious women out there listening to me right now. You know what to do. But when you say I'm just not doing it, that's because you're letting your amygdala run the show. So what we have to do is we have to start engaging our prefrontal cortex to make the decisions for us. So it's almost like your future self is coming in, swooping in, and making the decisions for you. Okay, so what does this look like? For example, let's say I am going on vacation, and I am going on vacation. I am going on a lot of vacations this summer. Let me pick one. I'm going to Bend, Oregon, and I'm going to be having an amazing time. We're going to be whitewater rafting. We're going to be climbing down into caves and spending lots and lots of time with family and cooking and eating and drinking and doing all the things. Sounds like so much fun, right? Well, if I made no plan for how I want to feel, and this is key, and you guys will get into this more in the next episode when I talk about how to really, really travel and get the maximal pleasure without a bunch of weight gain this summer. We'll talk about this more. But if I really think about how I want to feel on my trip, I know for sure I don't want to feel bloated. I don't want to feel like I'm gaining a bunch of weight. I want to feel good. I want to feel strong. I want to feel lean and being operative here, I want to enjoy all the delicious food that I know is going to be there on this trip. My family is very, very food oriented. We have amazing cooks in my family, and I can't wait to enjoy all of the things that they create. And I love me some cocktails. I love wine, right? I want to enjoy all of that, but I also don't want to feel bad in my body. And I mean physically. So when I think about using my prefrontal cortex, I think I can ask myself, okay, Lia, what is and this is key, and this will come up in the next episode, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. But the question is what do I want my experience to be on this trip, right? I definitely don't want to feel deprived. I'm sure as hell not going to be on a diet. You guys, if you know me, you know I don't do diets, right? I want to enjoy everything that there is to offer that is appealing to me. And I want to I want to sleep well. I want to digest well. I want to not have my clothes get tight while I'm on vacation, right? I want all of it. And yes, I do believe we can actually have all of it. How? How do we do that? Well, I'm going to plan in a couple of ways. The first thing that I'm going to plan to do is I'm going to plan to not consume certain foods that make me feel ill. And for me personally, that is fried food. I don't digest it well. And usually this doesn't come up with my family on this particular vacation, but I'm going to be real careful. Like we went out to dinner recently at an Italian restaurant. My husband's like, oh, the calamari is good here. And I like calamari, but I was like, I'm not touching it. Not because I'm afraid of weight gain, but because I know my body will not digest very well and I likely won't feel very good later on. I'm using my prefrontal cortex to say, I'm not going to eat something that looks appealing to me, that I know would taste good, because I can see into the future and I can see I'm not going to feel well if I eat that thing. So using your prefrontal cortex in that way can help you to make decisions now that will benefit you in the future. Now, here's the other thing though, that the more important thing is that you have to actually commit to following through on yourself. So if I tell myself, okay, we're going out to dinner, we're going on this vacation, and I'm really going to commit to not eating anything deep fried. Or if there is something I want to try that I haven't tried before that's deep fried, I'm just going to have 1 or 2 bites and end there, because I am valuing and prioritizing feeling good. Now, if weight loss was a goal for me, maybe that would be the reason I was going to avoid things that are fried, although I don't worry too much about that when it comes to weight. I worry more about the vegetable oils that they use to cook these foods. But again, that's a whole other episode. But the truth is that you can use your prefrontal cortex to do all the planning you want, but you also have to commit to the decision that you made using your prefrontal cortex. So for example, if I make a decision that I'm not going to overeat, let's go back to my Bend trip, for example. I'm going to Bend, Oregon, like I said, and I am going to, like I said, decide I want to try and eat all of the things. I know there's going to be tons of amazing food there, but I can also commit to not overeating. Now, why would I make that decision? First of all, this is going to increase my pleasure factor. You and I both know that food does not taste good when we're overeating it. It actually feels bad because now we feel bloated, we feel uncomfortable, and we've now ruined the experience for ourselves. I call this the point of diminishing return, where the first few bites are amazing, but then as you keep going and going and going, we all reach that point of diminishing returns. So what do? How do we stop doing that? Well, I've mentioned before on the show, and I'll mention it again here. I have a 30-minute training that you can take online, totally private. You can get it at liapinelli.com/EWF, stands for Eating Without Fear. That's liapinelli.com/EWF. And I teach you in under 30 minutes exactly how to eat only when you're hungry and stop when you're not hungry. And so what that means is I also teach you in that video is how to not overeat them. Because when you learn to stop when you're no longer hungry, you don't have to worry. You don't have to fear the weight gain and the stuffing yourself, right? You can enjoy everything that's there without worrying about unwanted weight gain, and discomfort. But you have to commit to the practice. And then you have to commit to using your prefrontal cortex, right? So there's going to be 4 parts here. The first is you got to commit to using your prefrontal. And you commit to using your prefrontal by imagining and planning into the future what and how you want to eat on this vacation. Then the second thing you have to do is commit to not overeating. And like I said, I can help you there at liapinelli.com/EWF. The third thing, though, that you have to do, and this goes back to the prefrontal, is you have to not just commit to what your prefrontal cortex decided it wants, right, in the future, but this is where you actually can start to build the trust. And what I mean by building the trust is if I tell myself I am not going to eat anything fried on this trip because I want to feel good, because I love myself, not because I'm trying to deprive myself, because I love myself, I'm not going to eat anything fried. If I tell myself that, this is an opportunity to build trust. So guess what happens? We end up going out to eat. Oh my gosh, this amazing fish and chip spot. You just got to try it, all the things. And so here I am. I've made this commitment to myself that I'm not going to eat fried foods, but now I'm confronted with some fried foods that I want to eat, right? Because who doesn't like fish and chips? This is my opportunity. I have 2 choices. I can either give in and eat those fish and chips and feel what? Go ahead and fill in the blank, y'all, because I know you know. Feel bad, feel bloated, feel uncomfortable, but most importantly, feel so disappointed in myself because I just eroded trust with myself again. I'm teaching myself over and over and over that I am untrustworthy, that I will make these promises. These are promises to myself to do or not do something, and then I will break those promises in a heartbeat. Everything changed in my life when I became a woman who has her own back. Everything changed in my life when I became a woman who could trust herself because I stopped breaking promises, no matter how small. I stopped breaking promises. And my dear friend, my dear listener, I must invite you to do the same. The way that you do it is that you make a plan for what you are or are not going to eat, and then you follow through with that plan. And as you follow through with the plan, you'll screw it up. I screwed it up a million trillion times, can't even count. But I always use those quote unquote failures as learning opportunities to really dig in. And again, this is what I do with my clients. We dig into to see what was going on there. Why did you break trust there? Let's learn more about what you were thinking and feeling and doing at the time so that we can interrupt these patterns, right? We want to repattern our brains to become someone who never, ever breaks promises, at least the really important ones, to herself ever again. So that is how you build trust, is you make a plan and you follow through. And when you don't follow through, you take the time to investigate with love and curiosity what happened. And finally, the last thing, and this is actually a perfect segue to the next episode, which is all about pleasure. But one of the most life-changing things that I've done in my life is I have committed to real pleasure. And I'm going to go into this at length on the next episode, so you can tune into that to learn more. But what you need to know right here, right now, is that in order to feel in control with food, yes, you've got to use your prefrontal cortex. You got to make a plan and a promise to yourself and follow through on that plan and build trust and really commit to not overeating anymore and use the Eating Without Fear tool that I have at liapinelli.com/EWF to teach you how to do that. But the best shift, one of the best shifts, I should say, that I've ever made in my life was when I really committed to feeling good. I committed to pleasure all the time. What do I mean by that? What I mean by pleasure all the time, by prioritizing pleasure, is really starting to see my life not just as one meal or one eating event, but really starting to see it for the entirety of what that meal is going to offer me. So what I mean by that is, I can see the meal. I could see myself wanting to eat this thing and wanting to eat more and more and more of it. But I have trained my brain to also consider the aftermath, right? Look into the future while I'm considering eating the thing. I have trained my brain to do this automatically, to think about, how am I going to feel after I eat that thing? And you guys, I don't mean shame and guilt because I ate something that had high calories or some bullshit like that. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my general well-being. Am I going to be digesting well? Am I going to feel well? Am I going to gain unwanted weight from this thing, right? And by the way, you don't usually gain unwanted weight from one thing. We usually gain unwanted weight by routinely eating that one thing. But that's, again, another episode. But when you really commit to prioritizing pleasure, you find that stopping overeating is much easier, because you start to recognize, like I said, that point of diminishing return where you realize, you know what, it doesn't feel good to overeat. So I'm going to stop here because I've had such a pleasurable experience eating this food, because I used Lia's tool, eating without fear. I really enjoyed this. And I'm totally aware that if I keep going, I'm going to detract from that enjoyment. So I'm going to go ahead and tap out. And I'm just going to increase my pleasure factor by tapping out right now. And then you just get to sit there and bask in the good feeling. So that is what I have for you beautiful people today. To feel in control with food, let's recap. You need to first learn to use your prefrontal cortex. And all that takes is, first, good information. Now you know about it. And second is practice. If you want to practice more, you can head over to liapinelli.com and I can help you with that. The second is you have to really commit to not overeat. And one of the best ways to commit to not overeating is to prioritize pleasure, which we'll be talking about in the next episode. And last but not least, commit to building trust with yourself. Make a plan, follow through, and when you don't, make sure you investigate with love and curiosity. Okay, I'll see you all on the next episode where we're going to talk more and more about pleasure, because it's one of my favorite things of all time to talk about. Ciao.
You've been listening to The Life You Crave. I lost 30 pounds years ago without dieting, willpower, or deprivation. I'm on a mission to help other women, including you, do the same. You can book a free weight loss strategy session with me over at liapinelli.com. That's liapinelli.com. See you on our next call or on the next episode. And remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on iTunes.